The Arthritis Journey, Part 1. Hi, my name is Shelly Manning. When your husband leaves you on your 56th birthday, which also happens to be Valentine's Day, it really gets your goat, doesn't it? Should I blame him? I don't know. I guess I was not so easy to live with back then. Plus, I got my sweet revenge later, as I'll tell you in a second. You see, I met Andrew when we were both in college. Shortly after we got married, I began to develop rheumatoid arthritis. Things got worse. Carrying 2 children and being immobile due to my diseases, I added on a lot of weight in the next 10 to 15 years. That put extreme strain on my knee joints, leading to additionally osteoarthritis in my early 40s. It didn't help that I worked in a small office, sitting in front of a computer all day long. When every move you make feels like torture, you tend to avoid moving. This is probably the #1 mistake us who suffer from arthritis make. This is also one of the main reasons obesity is twice as common among people with arthritis than the general public. I was no exception. Sometimes when the arthritis flares were the worst, I would lie in bed for days and days. Andrew wanted to go to gatherings or take a trip, but I couldn't go with him. I remember on our 22nd wedding anniversary, we planned to go to an old, famous 5-star restaurant that was on the 2nd floor. I just couldn't walk up the steps, and we ended up having pizza down the street. This is a sad reality for a young woman in her early 50s. These were supposed to be our golden years. Most women our age dread their husband running off with a younger, friskier woman. Well, Andrew got a friskier woman, but she was actually 2 years older than me. I was devastated. What a jackass to leave his wife of 31 years in her misery and pain. Andrew left the house immediately after telling me the grave news. He had already packed a suitcase, and I assume he drove straight over to his mistress. I just sat frozen at the kitchen table in our big house. I couldn't cry, couldn't really process what was happening. And the thought that came to me over and over again was, how am I going to function on my own? The next day I called out of work, saying I was sick. I'd done that a million times due to my arthritis. But then some kind of insanity hit me. You see, I always wanted to travel to Asia. And as I was drowning my sorrow while surfing the internet, an ad popped up for a cheap last-minute flight, and hotel to Hong Kong, leaving the next day. Before I could think about the pain of flying across the world, I bought the ticket and began packing. I thought it couldn't be more painful than staying in my house. I was wrong. Although I'd popped 12 of the strongest painkillers I had, I didn't sleep a wink in the small, uncomfortable seats on the plane. When we finally descended in Hong Kong after 16 hours of flying, I didn't think I could walk off the plane. As if that wasn't enough, little did I know that the hotel they put me in was far away from the major tourist or business areas. I was the only Westerner in sight. It truly felt like authentic China. How a cup of tea changed my life. After tossing and turning, trying to sleep for about 12 hours, I decided I should get some kind of refreshment. More tired than I had ever been in my life and tortured with pain, I limped out of the hotel, and sat down in the first restaurant I found. Then something weird happened. An older Chinese woman came over to me, and without saying a word, she poured me a cup of her special Chinese tea. Then, before I could order, she brought me a bowl of strange-smelling soup. And, as suddenly as she'd appeared, the woman disappeared without a word. Well, what else could I do other than drink the tea and eat the soup? After all, I was starving. Stay tuned for Arthritis Journey, Part 2.